Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television talk show where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. It's always such a fun ride, and you make it happen. Absolutely. You can find us syndicated on television. That's worldwide. Found on Abundance Television. That's on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com and all the social media sites. And you just can't get away from us if you tried. So we're all around. Facebook.com/DFiesel, and continue sending emails. Those make my day. Donna@donnasedge.com. That's Donna@donnasedge.com. Talking the truth right here. This is my go-to buddy right here. Her name is Eubank. She's with the Alabama Legislative Watchdogs. And I gotta say this. Every single thing you said has happened. Yeah. And you remember when we met, you were in Fort Payne. And so I was told by someone told me, then goes listen to this lady talk. Her name is Eubank, and she's with the Alabama Legislative Watchdogs, and she's going to be talking about the educational system. Well, at that time, my son was in his 30s, no grandkids and all that, so I had no skin in the game, which was stupid on my part, because even if you don't have any skin in the game, you still need to be concerned about the education of the kids. They're going to wind up being your neighbors someday, so that's another reason, okay?
Well, the problem is they're going to wind up running the country. Not just being your neighbors. They're the ones voting and running your country. And this group we have is going to run us into the ground. So.
Absolutely, and it starts small. And a lot of folks won't vote. They only vote for the presidential election. They won't vote for anything else. But it's extremely important. I heard the voter turnout was less than 10% in most areas. Mayors were being voted in, city council members. Those people are really, if you have a bad community, generally speaking, it's because of your mayor or the people in the city council.
Right, and the boards of education, if you still elect those. Although a lot of boards are no longer elected, they're appointed by the city council. So the city council is very important. We live in a bubble, and most people still live in their own bubble, and they don't step outside that bubble. I have my life, I have my family, I'm doing what I do. I don't have time for the political nonsense. But we have got to get out of our bubble and understand what's going on in our country in order to change it.
Well, Charlie Kirk was on the way to doing that. Helped a lot of young folks see the light. I like the way he handles things, though. And I saw his interviews. My son has been a follower of Charlie Kirk for many years. And Brad would send me some of those videos, and his approach was different. I saw this guy had purple hair, pink hair or something, and he had on a pink dress. So I would have wanted to shake him myself and shake some sense into it. But Charlie Kirk sat there dignified and looked at the guy with the pink dress on and purple hair. The guy was confused about his gender. And so I wanted to know how long he had felt this way. And the guy said, well, since he was like 3 years old or something like that, he thought he might be a woman inside a man's body. And so this is what he said to him. Very gentle. He looked at him in the eyes, very concerning. And he said, you need to seek help. We asked him if he was thinking about mutilating his body to be a woman. And so he was in the beginning stages of that. He was thinking about it. And he said, I just want you to seek counseling first before you do that. And this lady said it, before you mutilate your body. And I thought, what a way of putting it. And then the guy actually looked like he might be thinking about it. Charlie
Kirk was one of a kind. They'll never be able to replace Charlie Kirk because he was anointed by God to go out and do what he did. He started at 18 years old, knew exactly what his mission was, what he had to do to go out and change the minds and try to overcome our educational system and what they had done to our youth. And it was educational system, y'all. Everybody out there who's ever seen me speak know that I warned way back in 2010 that what Common Core was designed to do. And Common Core has reached the end of its pinnacle, or the top of its pinnacle, where they don't believe in God. Our country is evil. Your parents are stupid. Socialism is the way to go. If it feels good, do it. And if somebody disagrees with you, kill them. And they have turned our children into good little socialists, fascists, communists. And until we shake up those people who are putting this in our schools and our churches, it's in our churches, it's in our schools, we are no longer safe. We no longer have the right to speak out. And I think it's not a battle of government. It's a battle of good and evil. It's a battle of we the people and the powered elites, because they want to make us slaves. And if we don't submit, what happened to Charlie will happen to us. One at a time, millions at a time, it doesn't matter. We have to come out of our bubble, stand up and speak out, and get rid of those who are trying to destroy America. And by getting rid of them, I'm not talking about picking up arms and going and finding somebody. I'm talking about exercising the greatest right that you have in America is by voting them out. And I've advocated that. We've talked about this for 20 years, 15 years, ever since she's been doing this show. We have to vote them out. We can no longer just take the word, well, I'm a good Christian conservative legislator and I'm doing what's best for our citizens. No, they're not. As long as they fund the destruction of our children through the education system, they need to go.
Well, I'm not a card-toting Republican, and I know you're shocked.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, most definitely not a Democrat. Yeah, I'll just put it to you this way: had Trump been running on an independent, I would have voted independent.
Yeah, but in Alabama we don't have independent. You can't vote for an independent in Alabama unless they go through. You just would not believe the amount of hoops it takes to be something other than Republican and Democrat in the state of Alabama. Oh, absolutely by design. Because, the Democrat Party and the Republican Party are corporations. They're not part of the government. And they can set their own rules. And in order to get on the ballot, I just saw the ex-Secretary of State walk out of here, John Merrill, and you need to go on the Secretary of State's website and find out what it takes to run on a ballot if you're not Republican or Democrat. It will shock you. It's not easy, and it costs a lot of money.
Well, there's a guy, his name is Chad, and Chad has run for governor how many times and tried to do it on the independent ticket, and it just never works out for him. So this past time when he ran for governor, the last race, he ran on the Democrat ticket.
Yeah.
And I guess it was easier to get on there. They still didn't win, but that's another thing. It just seems like, am I wrong in this? It seems like a lot of stuff is staged. It just...
I'm sorry, I just did an eye roll.
I'm preaching to the choir.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir.
But it just makes sense that it is because, okay, let's just use North Carolina, for example. Okay, so they had their election for governor a few years ago, and the most flaming liberal person you could ever meet, one of them, is the governor now. Okay, then you had Mr. Robinson, who's a Mark Robinson, who is a conservative,
Yeah.
is lieutenant governor. It makes no sense to me, especially with the country being so divided, that you could have someone who's elected as the governor, who's a flaming liberal, and then you can have a lieutenant governor
Who's a conservative?
How can that be possible?
Let's see, what is the adage? It's not who votes, it's who counts the votes. And that is truth all over our country, as evidenced by Trump losing in 2020. There's a movement afoot, which strangely I'm part of, to try to get rid of the voting machines so that we go back to paper ballot.
I'm for that.
And counting the paper ballots. It is not impossible. In fact, it's been proven very easy to do. And there's been tests done against the machines and the paper ballots, and actually the paper ballot totals came in before the machine total.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
This
So,
freaks me out.
And they all say, oh no, they're not connected to the internet. That's the biggest lie that's ever been
Well, then how else
spoken.
are they getting there?
That's
It has
exactly,
to- I mean,
exactly.
Okay, Phil and I used to own an internet company. Did I ever tell you about that?
No.
It was dial-up back in the day.
Yeah,
Okay,
I remember dial-up.
we thought we were all that. Yeah, well, when we went from a 28.8 baud modem to a 33.6, then we went up to 56K, we were like the talk of the town.
Yeah,
It was like everybody going, they got the fastest internet. Well, now you laugh at that speed.
yeah, we do.
But my point being is,
We have fiber.
I know I have fiber now. But the point is that's, I mean, it's common sense that it has to be running through a network somehow to be able to get to the various places. But my point is I think people were finished quicker in the day who worked at the polls who did it paper.
That's right. That's
Now,
right.
you got to stay. So why is it not instant? I mean, why does it take so long?
Follow the. What are my three favorite words? Follow the money.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense. I happen to know how packets of information go through the internet.
Right.
I know. So it makes no sense that you can't. I'm going to say, okay, we'll give you until 8 o'clock. Okay, so 7 o'clock the polls close.
Yeah.
Really, by 7:05 you should have the results.
Yeah. Exactly. If it you know, those machines supposedly called tabulators count. You put it in there and it counts the little bubbles and it puts it on a piece of paper. Why does it take so long? Well, I can tell you why it takes so long. And in the state of Alabama, we don't have an audit process after an election. And we've been fighting for a true audit process. But there are times when the numbers that come out of that machine don't match the number of ballots that go into the box. And they don't do anything about that. You just write down a little pink piece of paper, put it on top of the box, seal the box, and nobody ever looks at it again. So I had a conversation. I was on with Scott Beeson last week, and we had a conversation about when he ran. If you adjusted anywhere from 10 to 20 votes per box, you could overturn an election in the state of Alabama. So if you know that the numbers on the number of ballots that actually you have in your hand of people that voted, that you handed out, is different than the machine, what happened? Well, in the state of Alabama, nobody cares. And they don't do anything about it. We have a group here that's fighting, and they were sued by the government, by the state government, and went to court, presented their evidence. The judge agreed with the evidence that was presented that the machines were not an accurate count of an election. took the evidence. They came back the next day, and he sided, of course, with the state, even though the evidence was overwhelming of the errors and the omissions and the additions, and that there were 16 different ways that the numbers could be changed from the point that you check in to the point that it's over with at 7 o'clock. 16 different ways that those numbers can be changed. And they were ruled against and put under a gag order not to go spread this information across the state of Alabama. And the reason I know this is because one of the people or actually 2 or 3 of them, they were on a conference call, asked me to take the information, because I had seen the PowerPoint presentation, and take it out and go speak to people and talk to people about it, because my voice, the people who hear my voice know that I do my homework and that I know what I'm talking about. And so I called one of the guys. I said, "What's the deal? Y'all been doing this for a year." He said, "We're under a gag order." So I have a call this week, the 18th, and we'll see what happens, because I'm all over the state. We'll see what happens, because even in Alabama, of course, Alabama's been on corruption top 10 lists since the 1930s, so I'm not, I don't know why people say even in Alabama, but we'll see what happens. And, if you want to know the truth about how our elections aren't really how we voted, there are people out there who can tell you.
Yeah, but let me tell you something interesting that happened. Okay, now my grandmother in the small town I was living in at the time, every year worked, the polls. I mean, every time they had an election, dog edge or whatever, she was always there. So I thought, well, I'm going to carry on the trend and do it at least once. Okay, I wound up doing it twice, and swore I'd never do it again. But let me tell you why I said I'd never do it again. Okay, so on the last one I worked at, okay, this is the one where Biden won.
Yeah, 2020.
Well, this is what I saw happening, okay, is they're putting the paper through the machine. As they're doing that, a lot of times it was coming back. So I asked the guy who was in charge of it, I said, "There's something wrong with the machine." So I questioned it, so I'm blackballed. I don't get to go back the next time.
Of course, never ask a
So
question.
I'm a bad guy. But anyway, whatever. But I had a question to me. It made sense because I'd been we owned an internet company. I'm just telling you, I know how it works. Okay, so I saw lots of times I saw this happening that day. People would put the paper through and it would spit it right back out. So I asked the guys, he was just standing there, and I said, "Is that not counting an extra vote? I mean, when you put it through this way, or is it not taking away a vote? Does this one not count now when it actually goes through the second time? Something tells me there's a problem here." Well, he just looks at me and he said, "Everything is perfectly fine, relax." Everything's perfectly. Well, I'm going to pieces about it because to me it doesn't make sense that it's working. So I didn't get asked back. Well, one of my sisters came and showed out.
Well,
but anyway.
I have not ever worked as a poll worker, but I have worked as a poll watcher.
Have you seen it do that?
Yes, constantly.
Okay, why does it do that?
There's something on the paper that spits it back out that it doesn't like. So, there was a lady that went and bought regular paper, because we've always been told it's special paper. It's not. She bought regular paper, made copies, and she was doing this at a test of the machine. And by the way, the people who test the machines are the ones who program the machines.
Oh, well.
There is no separate validation.
Donna's common sense.
Yeah.
I don't have much of it, but I've got some.
There is no separate validation from another company.
There's not a third party.
No, there's not.
Well, there needs to be a third party.
They test and they validate and they program. So she went and made copies of the ballot. And they kept telling her, "Well, that can't happen. And, it takes special paper, blah, 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 blah." She walks up during the test and feeds in 5 pieces of paper, and it took it and it counted it. Well, you know what broke loose, because that's not supposed to happen. That is exactly what happened in Georgia when they delivered boxes of copied ballots that were fed into the machine after the polls closed.
So I can be like a loser and I can go in on election day and get something already pre-done and just pop it through, and
Yes.
and probably the person standing over is not going to pay attention
No.
anyway. I can fool anybody.
So, we know that happens. I've been in Mississippi doing poll watching, and there were 3 of us poll watching this specific one because this was one of the bad precincts. And nobody bothered us all day long. Of course, you have to get there at 7 a.m. when it's not fun. So we sat there at 4 o'clock. We had 2 policemen walk in and ask us to leave. Well, we had the certificate of poll watcher because you had to have one that you went through the thing and you have permission, and it comes from a candidate. And it didn't matter because downtown told them we had to leave because it's after 4 o'clock when all the monkey business starts. They escorted us out in Mississippi at 4 o'clock after we'd been there all day long. Here in Alabama, I vote in Bluff Park, which is in Hoover. And my daughter, for some reason, God love her, called me. She leaves to go to work early, so she voted before I did. She called me. She said, "Mother, there's something wrong." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "One of the machines is down." I said, "Okay, what do you mean down?" She said, "Well, I went over to put my thing in the machine and it wouldn't take it. And the guy said, well, just put it down here in the box. Slide it in without being counted." I said, "No." She said, "Oh, I told him that." "No, that's not happened." I said, "Give me 5 minutes." Well, I went up there, not dressed, no makeup, nothing. And I walk over and I asked the guy, because it was during the Tim James gubernatorial election, and I was on Tim James' campaign. And I said, "What's wrong with the machine?" He said, "I don't know, we've got somebody coming." And I said, "So you're asking these people just to put the ballot in the box and not feed through the machine? That's not legal." And he said, "Well, that's what they told me." And I said, "No, you can't do that." So I pick up the phone, I call the Republican Party, and the Republican Party sends somebody over. And what they were going to do was open the box and count the ballots once they got the machine and feed them through. Well, I'm sorry, that's not legal. That's not allowed in an election in the state of Alabama. That was one time. Second time we go to vote, when I go to vote, because I didn't vote at that time, I was not about to put my vote in the box and not go through the machine. There are some people there wearing T-shirts for a candidate, and they were asked to leave because that's not allowed. And I said,
Yeah, it has to be within so many feet.
No, they were voting. They were not, they had come in, that was their voting precinct, and they were wearing their candidate's T-shirt. That is not against the law, people.
But if you weren't there, you can't.
Yeah. If you weren't there, or if you were standing outside and you're talking to people and you're in the place to vote.
Or if you're running for office.
Right. No, you can wear a shirt with your name on it, as long as you don't talk to people and try to encourage them to vote for you. If you were there to vote and you're just wearing a T-shirt, that is not illegal. So I pick up the phone and I call John Merrill. And I said, "John Merrill, there are people here." And he said, no, who's doing that?" Well, it was the precinct captain. So the point I'm making is, know what the law is of when you go to vote. Because there are people there who don't want you to vote. And I got to the point where I was like, there are so many people who do not understand their rights. But we are going to be fighting for paper ballots again this legislative session.
I'd love to see that happen. Yeah, I got you go. This is hilarious, and I've told you about this, but I don't know you've heard this. Okay, so I was working the second time. This is right before they said they didn't tell me I couldn't come back. I was just not asked to come back for the rest of it. Okay, so the two women who were actually, they were Democrats, the two women who were actually taking the names, looking at the IDs and all that.
Yeah, machine, the check-in machine.
They both went out to lunch. So they told me to move over in that seat. So I moved over the seat, and everybody was going to lunch. And I told them, I said, don't worry about me. I'm used to not even getting lunch sometimes. It's busy. And I said, I can just go whenever. So anyway, they said, well, then you sat right there. So it was me and this guy. We were the only ones, Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm important. Well, there's somebody telling me that probably, you haven't paid for your college. We're gonna, at 66, if I've not paid my now, I'm never going to pay it. So, but anyway, what happened there, it was just me and this one guy.
Oh, I'd like to know where that got
left there. Yeah, no, really. It was just me and this guy there, and that were working there. And I was taking the people's information, to see the ID, because it was hammered on her head. You got to see the ID and all that. Well, so this guy whips in, and he's apparently the toast of the town. And I didn't know because I hadn't been living there that long.
Right.
I've been living in Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, I didn't know that I was supposed to bow to him. But anyway, so he comes in, and I said, I need to see your ID. And he said, everybody here knows me. And I said, well, I don't know you. And so, I mean, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
That's right.
And so, and I'm not being rude. And I just said, well, I don't know you. And he said, well, that's what it says on there, that if people know me, that blah, blah, blah. Well, there wasn't enough people to vouch for him, is what I'm trying to say.
Right, exactly.
It's a small town. It was just me and this other dude. Well, there was nobody else in voting at that time, so the world was my oyster this time.
Exactly.
Thank God. Okay. So we need to see. He said, well, so you've been to class and you don't know? And I said, yes, sir, I've been to class and I know exactly what it says. I've got to see your ID. And he said, well, it's off the truck. And I said, well, then you need to go get it from the truck. And it's not like a big town, for goodness sakes. It was just parked right in front of it. And it was just a glass window. So anyway, it made him mad because I made him go to the truck and get it. Well, the guy who's working with me is a liberal, and he said, well, now you could have let him go through. And I said, nope. Remember what I said? 2 people have to vouch for this guy. Okay? And I said, I'm not going to get in trouble. And you turn me in because I know we went to school together. I said, and you'd turn me in, I know you would. So anyway, the guy comes in, and then he lets me, just throws his ID out there, and I look at it, and I said, yep, that's you. And then I gave it back to him, and so I had him sign, do what I need to do. And then, by then, other people started coming in, during all this stuff that was happening. But it got me out of, I wanted to put his nose to the grindstone.
That's
right. Being such
Being
a jerk.
That's right.
So then he walks around, and then the guy by me says, we could have let him by. You didn't have to do it. I said, doing all of what? I said, his truck was just right out there. All I had to do was go get it right then. That's all he had to do. I wasn't asking him to go shoot 10 people. That's all I asked him to do. So then by the time he comes around, he looked at me and he said, you're probably a conservative, but I like you anyway. And I said, I like you too. And then I said this. I said, now tell me, you're working for the state of Alabama just to see if I'm going to ask to see your ID. Is that what you're doing? And I said, I went along with his game. And he looked at me and he said, no, I work for the state of Alabama. Alabama can be weird. I'm just telling you guys. When you're working the polls, you follow the rules, okay?
That's right.
You do it. I did. I stood up to the dude.
Well, every time I'm in a pub, and my daughter, every time she goes in, there's always, she said, why me? I said, because you'll stand up. You are my daughter, unfortunately for her.
It comes from you.
Yeah, she was standing behind a young black lady the last time she voted. And there's a lot of liberals in Bluff Park.
Really?
Oh, yes. Oh, lots of Democrats. Unbelievable. I have no idea why I live there. But they don't bother me. I don't bother them.
You have fun at it,
I do. I fly my Trump flag. Yeah, I fly my Trump flag. So this young lady says, well, I don't have an ID. And there are, it's a mixture of who's running that polling place. And so one of the ladies said, well, I can't check you in, but you can ask for a provisional ballot. So she goes over to this next lady and tries to explain to her she doesn't have her ID. And they spend a lot of time on the computer trying to, pull up, do you have one on your phone? Do you have this? Do you have that? And she didn't have any idea. I am none. So they bring over the precinct captain, and the precinct captain says, we'll give her a provisional. And then she tells the girl, bring it back to me. So the young black lady goes, sits down, fills it out, and gets in line to put it in the machine. And my daughter sees this. She goes over to the precinct captain, and the other lady standing there saying, you told her to bring that back to you, but she's about to have it counted in the machine. And neither one of them knew what to do. They allowed her to put that ballot in the machine, and it was a provisional ballot. That's the kind of stuff that, how many elections came down to 1, 2, or tied in Alabama, local, 3, 4? And that might have been the one.
It could have been one.
And that was an illegal.
And then
That's
people
right.
being too lazy to get out to vote.
That's an illegal vote.
It sure is.
So-
We've got to go into a commercial break.
Gotcha.
We're going to be right back in just a minute, guys. Y'all hang in there, okay?
Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of the Cobb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring. But the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
We are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television talk show, When Truth Matters. That's why Ann Eubank is with us all the time. And I started talking about the first time I ever met you, and no skin in the game, didn't have the kids in school, none of that stuff, no grandkids, nothing like that. And I was told I need to go here and listen to you. And there's actually the folks with the fair tax.
Yeah.
Carrie Lynn Bailey, they
Yeah.
told me about you.
I hadn't seen them lately.
No, they're still out there.
Yeah.
So they told us, you got to go listen to her. So I did, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to listen to this. I don't know what she's talking about. What's coming? See, I was very uneducated. I didn't know what kind of core was. I had no clue. you better get yourself educated, because ever since that night, I've been on the bad about this. It is so right, and so Ann is like she's like my go-to person. Like if something weird comes up, I always go, Ann, something don't feel right. Something just feels really weird about this, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I've learned to go with my gut, and you told me to do that. If something just doesn't feel right, there's a reason it doesn't feel right.
When I'd been on the radio with Scott on the day that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and I decided I wanted Chinese for lunch, and I just had gotten home and walked in, and I turned around and I thought, I saw it on Fox that Charlie had been shot. Now, I did not know Charlie Kirk personally. I had the privilege of hearing him speak at Heritage events twice, and I got to shake his hand, and he wouldn't have known me from Adam's house cat.
I don't know.
But he was, if you ever heard him speak, you would know that he loved God, he loved his country, he loved his family, he wanted everybody, his mission was to bring America back to a family-centered country where family mattered, where faith mattered, where free speech mattered. And it was I was numb. It was a gut punch. Because when I heard him speak, he spoke about how many death threats he got, how it was coming from the deep state, from the elites, from those who want to destroy our country, and how they were using hate in the schools. And he talked specifically about colleges, but I am telling you, it starts in kindergarten. Let's talk about what happened in the libraries, how they are systematically destroying. And I talked back then that Common Core was just the first step. That then we would go down the road to Innovate and Workforce, where you were separated by a caste system. America's not founded on you go to college, you get to do you get to be an electrician, and you get to go work on the farms that are owned by corporate, where the government and corporatism have taken over our country. And that's where we are today. And unless we come out and stand up, and Charlie Kirk gave his life, his assassination, I am still, yesterday afternoon, my daughter looked at me, she said, Mother, 2 days, 3 days of this stuff is enough. You have got to turn off the TV. Because it had affected me so as to how his death came about and why they killed him, and the response of these evil, demonic people to his death. And I thought, I took this summer off because after researching AI and where it's going and where it's going to end, I thought to myself, I have to step back, because this is really difficult for me to understand how this is happening and what I can do about it. And then they assassinate Charlie, and I'm thinking, oh, not on my watch. So people, be ready for me coming out again, and no holds barred. I am coming full force against politicians, against the churches, against the people who are telling us, oh, it's okay. What is wrong with you? Why can't you understand and be what is the word they use? Tolerant. Now, it's time to pick up our sword and go after some of these programs and some of these people who are teaching our children hate. And that's where I'm at.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question because, remember when 9/11 happened?
Yeah.
Okay, the whole country went down to its knees. You didn't go to a restaurant and people were playing religious music and stuff like that. We didn't take everybody home to do that.
Right.
So you didn't see
The next election.
the same old thing over and over again. Okay, so it seems like things are turning around right now. But how do we hold on to it this time?
Well, I think you're going to see the young people be the ones that do it this time. You and I'm old as dirt. My time is limited.
No, it's not.
These,
No.
But I have to tell you, I do hope that not that I be assassinated, because I don't think I've ever had a death threat. I've had people
I
try
was going
to
to say, now, you've had people
threaten and
There's
intimidate
been-
me,
yeah,
but
there has
never
been.
a death threat to shut up. And
I've
my
seen
attitude.
looks out of people's eyes wishing you'd shut up.
Yeah, my attitude is bring it, because if you can prove me wrong, I'm kind of like Charlie was. You prove me wrong, but yeah, I think you'll see the young people.
They're going to carry the court.
Yeah.
Thing.
They're going to have, and this generation, I think they call them Generation Z,
I don't know.
are more conservative and more go to church.
Well, you know why? Because they saw their parents living in the basement of
Yeah.
their parents' home for long enough. And they're
Right.
thinking, well, can't we have better than this?
And so we need to support those kids who want to come. Brylan Hollyfield, have you had him on your show yet? He's hard to get in touch with. A lot of the young people, the turning point, Riley Gaines, oh my gosh. She's one of my heroes, because they have been in the trenches fighting this ridiculous transgender stuff, the ridiculous men and women's sports. I mean, it's just they are on the front lines.
Riley has come to more sense. Let me tell you the whole thing about this. My question from day one about that was, why aren't you liberal women fighting for her?
Well,
Women's rights, really?
yeah.
This
The only
is
one-
like your ultimate reason to
Exactly.
make your point about women's rights.
Exactly. The only one who actually stood up was Billie Jean King, and they canceled
Oh
her.
yeah, well she's canceled.
There's a bunch of people out there canceling anybody on the left who said this is a tragedy. This is a tragedy. But it's what is it? We're not fighting men. We're fighting principalities of evil. I don't remember how that thing goes.
It's good against evil. It's not
That's
Democrat
exactly
Republican.
right.
You know why it's not Democrat Republican anymore? Because there's some Republican jerks in there too, who are just as bad. I would rather sit down and have dinner with a Democrat, because I would at least know where the darts are coming when
Yeah.
you start shooting them.
Exactly.
But if you get a rhino in there, I'm sorry.
Oh, don't get me started on that. Okay.
Rhinos are worse than the Democrats.
So we have elections coming up next year.
They're
And-
studying now for those.
I'm going. I have a speech October the 18th in Mobile, and for that speech, I'm going to give a legislative update on exactly who in the Alabama legislature is for us or against us. Because they all say, all those Republicans, and I can count this many that I truly believe are on the side of the people. And there's how many in there? 200 something? And I'm going to be giving what they voted for, what they voted against, what bills they were sponsors on, who's running, exactly who's behind them. And I'm not saying money. I'm saying because, the corporatists, they give money to both sides. They don't care who you are. We gave the Republicans this much money, we gave Democrats, because we have to know that we have a place at the table. And in
We
order
want
to do
everybody's business.
yes, and in order to do that, they give everybody money. But at that October meeting in Mobile, I'm going to start. And anybody who wants me to speak, you can find me anywhere on the specific people in your district, how they voted, and what they stand for. Give me a call because we're already doing the research in order to replace those in the Alabama legislature. Just because they're incumbents and they've been there for 20 years doesn't mean they still represent the voters' interest.
No, I'll give you one that it's a very common one. You've heard me talk about it so much, can't believe it let me shot. And it's the one in Albertville. Okay, with the people moving in. And my question to you has been this. Does the mayor and the city council, don't they know who's coming into their town? And also, if I'm in the town next door and I'm a mayor and city council, don't I kind of have a clue? Or wouldn't I, let's just say that I'm a moron and I'm a mayor in, say, XYZ town. Yeah. You're a mayor in ABC town. You heard that I've got a bunch of illegals coming in who are taking over. Wouldn't you be calling me and say, Donna, have you lost your ever-living mind? Because some of those are going to be coming into my town.
Well, Biden brought in a bunch of them and made them legal. Well, the Supreme Court just ruled that Trump has the right to declare them illegal and deport them. We are talking Sylacauga. The mayor of Sylacauga said, I didn't know they were coming. But funny, he owns the housing where they were put.
You just made my point.
And he's made megabucks housing these people. They put them in the chicken plants. Follow the money. That's Sylacauga. Coleman, same thing. Albertville, same thing. Your area, same thing. They bring them in. They brought them in, put them in the factories. Happened in Georgia. The Hyundai plant. 425 South Koreans, Hyundai South Korean, took the jobs of Americans that could have been making those wages. Well, their reasoning, and the ICE raided it, and they gathered them all up. And Hyundai is now whining, well, we needed those people to teach the Americans how to do this job. Well, that's a bunch of baloney.
I'm sorry, that makes absolutely no sense.
No sense, none.
So who taught these folks? I'm talking language barrier.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Somebody had to teach them. You know what I mean? So wouldn't that time have been spent better with more production, teaching your own people that voted you in as mayor and city council?
Yeah. All these data centers that they're building,
one right up here, Google's been going to come into Scottsboro for how many years now?
Still hadn't made it. They're building high schools in Gulf Shores, which is really funny, which is hysterical. That was raided. Illegals building high schools, one of which they build these outdoor things down there, was blown over because it was so poorly constructed with,
I want my child in this.
yes, right, illegal alien construction workers. And then the superintendent of education said, well, I just contract with these people. They're not supposed to have illegals. But did they go behind them and check and e-verify? No, they're not going to do that. And then RSA, Retirement Systems of Alabama, that is building the building in Montgomery, the new State House, with that same company that was raided for illegal alien construction workers. So is our State House being built with illegal alien construction workers? I am telling you. So the corporatists don't care who you are. It's all about follow the money. And that's
But
what's
still, it
going
doesn't
on.
make any sense whatsoever. Okay, so, okay.
That is true. That is to RSA. Yeah.
I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so, in my business, I'm not a great huge business, but I do own my own show, and that's all. This is all I want. I do not want to be a big corporation. I don't want to, because I don't want to be told what to do and what to say, and I'm just not that good at that. But my point is this, okay, so let's just say I buy a copier, okay, I buy a copier. Okay, I've tried one copier like this already before, it's nothing but trash. Okay, am I gonna go back and get another one exactly like it? Probably not.
Probably not.
I'm just using common sense here. I would probably, I do a little asking around, I would do more research this time. And I would make sure that I had the right copier, because even though I don't use it that much, I want it to be available. When I do need it, I'm always one of those in a crunch. So when I need it like now. I need it yesterday.
Yeah.
So I would do a little bit of research to make sure I wasn't making the same dumb mistake. And that's what it comes to doing.
Yeah.
Making the same mistake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So sending the same people back, expecting them to act differently.
And I gotta add,
But I got to tell you, and I want to say it right to this camera, because of the reaction of the people of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, you're going to be hearing these politicians talk about how they've come back to Jesus and how we, the people and the families, are the most important things. Don't fall for that without doing your research on how these people have behaved in the past. I would never dare to question anybody's religious beliefs. But a politician who all of a sudden says, I'm not gonna act that way anymore. Charlie Kirk's death, awakened me to the problems that I've had in the past. Be very, very careful and don't fall for that.
Okay, I gotta ask another question. Okay, I know the answer to this. I know exactly what you're gonna say. Okay, but why did it take Charlie Kirk's death for people to wake up to begin with?
Because we all live in a bubble. We are so self-centered.
So you mean you and I are these weirdest people?
No, I don't live in a bubble. And that's the problem. If y'all knew what I knew, I know y'all wouldn't sleep at night. I mean, I'm in D.C. I've been in Phoenix, Arizona. I've been in Utah, Texas, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Oh my word, if you want to talk about Minnesota and how it's being taken over by the foreigners who've been brought in here with different religions than what Judeo-Christian foundation of our country is, then, I do the research on AI. I've done the research on Innovate and Workforce, and I have binders, a whole bookcase full of binders full of information of what this truly is. Get out of your bubble and start looking at the world like it really is.
There's some telltale signs. I mean, that really just kind of jump out there at you. What would you say? Let's say I'm a politician, and I say, and everybody has their own God.
Yes.
How would you take that?
Well, in my world, there's
We don't
only
have
one
enough time in
God.
this segment for
And
any
in my world, I live in a country that's founded on that God and on the principles of nature and nature's God, not on government, not on 6 or 7 types. The Return of the Gods, where Jonathan Cahn wrote that book, he talked about Egyptian gods and Jewish gods before Jesus. There's like 6 or 7 of them that he says have been resurrected because of all of the evil. And that, of course, we're in our last days, everybody knows that believes in.
But a lot of politicians say just worship the God that you choose. And a lot of those politicians say that, man.
Well, you have the right of freedom of religion. You don't have the right to impress that religion upon me. and you have the right of free speech to a point until it damages somebody
yeah, but there's
else.
one gun though that says kill the infidels, and apparently
That gun,
we're
yeah.
the infidels,
Yes,
right?
that is
that a good one
absolutely
to have
right.
in our government in the United States?
I don't think so, but you get elected that way in Minnesota. Look what they've elected. I would like to see us return to the roots that this country was founded on. And if that means kicking them all out, look what Tommy Robinson is doing in England. He had a 1 million man march Saturday.
Can you believe it?
I was astounded.
I could not believe it.
Did you see it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Where the people of England have had their freedom of speech taken. You can be arrested for carrying a British flag in England now.
And you're in England.
In England, you cannot say anything against anybody, even if the guys that run around with the knives stabbing all the young white women in England, because it is a war on young white women there. You can't say anything about it, or you will be arrested and put in prison. We can't get to that point here. We have to stop it before it gets there.
Well, how do we keep it? Because right now we're on the momentum to go the right way. How do we keep that momentum?
We have to continue to read the Bible and get to the point where we know who we are. We have to stand up and speak out against evil. I heard this morning, actually it was yesterday, where Elon Musk fired 2,000 of his workers at X for celebrating the death and assassination of Charlie Kirk. And they're all whining and crying about their freedom of speech. That company has a morals clause in the contract. That company has a decency, and you can't damage this company with your behavior. That's not normal behavior.
Well, here's what I've got to say to the people who say that Charlie is just, it's just the consequences of what you said. Well, how about you lost your job because of the
consequences of what you said and what you did and how you damaged that company, and how Elon Musk has a certain type of behavior within his company. And he said, I don't care who you are. If you did that, you're fired. If you don't like it, sue me.
So we had big exodus of people going out of his company. And that's his
2,000.
Well, that's his right to do
That's
that.
his right to do that.
Absolutely,
That's
it is.
his company.
Yeah.
Your right is to say it, but like I used to tell my children, you can do what you want to do, but you have to accept the responsibilities of what you did.
That's your consequence.
And your
we need to see a
consequence.
few more consequences.
That's right.
And thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome.
It's always so much fun. I love this girl.
Hey, be careful who y'all vote for.
Yeah, you'd better. And thank you so much for watching. If you have any more questions, anything you would like me to ask Ann next time she's on the show, continue sending emails. Donna@donnasedge.com. Donna@donnasedge.com. So I had a lady who sent something and she said, do I have to be from Alabama to be? And I said, no, you don't have to be from Alabama. You can ask any question you want to from any of the 50 states or across the whole wide world.
Because trust me, I've been there.
She probably has. And she's looking out after you too. But thank you so much for watching. See you next time.